happy to be your host for today. And basically, we will do a small walkthrough about our community, which is the TEC, the Tokyo Engineering Commons. Um, Basically, we start our calls in the TEC with a little bit of cultural practice, which is what we call intentions and distractions. For example, today I will say that my intention is to welcome you all to the TEC, and my distractions is that I'm in a very loud neighborhood. So sometimes the loud will come because I have a school across my balcony. So sometimes the noise of the kids will come around. So that's a distraction for me at the moment. And if any of you want to add anything to these intentions and distractions, you can add it. You can add it something like, where are you building? Where are you working on? What is your time zone? Where are you located at? Or, for example, just simply, how did you find about the TEC? Any information you would like to share, it's more than appreciated. Um, and after this, I will start then explain a little bit more about the TEC. Currently, myself, I work as a community steward in the TEC. I am based in Barcelona, but currently I'm in Panama, which is my hometown. And I'm not a developer background. I have an art and critics degree, but I found myself to the Web3 space, and here I am. Welcome you all. So I will pass it on the word to each of you, and you're more than welcome to share as much as you want. So I will pass it on to Linda, since you are smiling lovely. So there you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Elaine. It's so funny because I got distracted by my phone giving a notification that I had indicated interested in this call. And so I clicked it away and then I ended up in here. So I thought, oh hell, I'll just join because I was working on something else. Um, my roommates, we live in a community house in Brussels. She's playing the violin, so voilà. That might be a distraction too. For the rest, I'm part of the, or yeah, I'm the executive director of Offer Climate, a nonprofit based in Brussels, and we recently moved to organizing ourselves as a DAO, and trying to find a way to maybe create even a token for the climate movement community. And then I'm talking especially about grassroots movements. So say Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion, that we all host under our nonprofit. So everything climate and social justice related. That's what I'm working on. And next to that, I'm a freelance facilitator. I practice deep democracy. So voilà, that's how I got involved in the Graviton DAO and how I sort of got interested in TEC. Voilà. And I pass the word to Jonathan.
Hello. I've been following this for maybe a couple of months. Gideon on Twitter, I discovered token engineering. I'm a retired systems engineer. I worked in the mobile telecommunications control plane and have experience in Python and C++. So like I said, I retired about a year ago. I moved from the US to Canada. So I'm very interested in economic systems and the commons, developing the commons. I'm interested in technology, complex systems. And I'm a little skeptical of crypto because crypto, there's some bad actors that are using crypto. And so any involvement, I want to make sure I'm working with good actors. This looks like a really interesting group. I haven't really gotten into GitHub to look at the code that you write, but I look at some of the more social things. And it just looks like an interesting group, and I'm considering getting involved. And I don't, it's a trade-off, right? I have to understand that this is a good group, good to be involved in. And also, if I do get involved, I'd like to be able to make contributions. I guess looking at what you're doing with the code, because I know Python, I might be able to help with some testing. I've done a lot of transaction flow testing. And anyways, I'll pass the mic on to the next person.
Thank you. And you're welcome, Jonathan Wade. You're welcome to stay here with us. And I will pass it on to Nomad, Chad.
Hi, my name's Chad, and I'm currently in London. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. and I started going down the crypto rabbit hole about a year and a half ago. I continue to go down that hole. It's a deep hole. I started investing really just in some different projects. And then as I got into the projects, I realized there was so much more complexity going on, and tokenomics was part of that complexity. And and get a better understanding of it. And now I'm actually working on a project we've just gotten started to involve blockchain and sustainability. So it's very early, but we're just working on different ideas. So excited to be here.
Thank you in chat. And I will pass it now to Christina Barol-Lucet.
Hi, thank you. So I was on a Raid Guild call yesterday, and they were talking about needing more people that understand tokenomics, and I hadn't really thought of it as an actual field of study, which seems very exciting. But I write mostly copywriting and content writing. So I went into Dow House in their their school, their education channels. And I said, how shall I enter this tokenomics rabbit hole? And Earth to Travis suggested you. So that was this morning, and it was like 30 minutes before the call, and yay, it was perfect timing. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And that was a really nice coincidence. And then I will pass it on to Narcissus, Token Souffleur.
Hey everyone, I don't know, can you hear me? Cool. It's actually my first time actually talking on Discord, so I didn't know if my microphone was on. Yeah, I live in London. I have a background in psychology, neuroscience, and computer science, and just finished my master's this September at UCL. And I really wanted to get into blockchain development after that, so I kind of like springboarded into it once I finished my master's. And for the past 4 months, I've learned how to, develop smart contracts on Ethereum and learning about all the various bells and whistles. It is absolutely a huge space, but because of my background in psychology, I noticed that the mentality of numbers go first is prevalent somehow in the blockchain space as well. And I thought, how exactly can we solve that in kind of like a decentralized fashion, as in kind of introduce other types of values in tokens themselves. So I started a little project that, on the one hand, was a good way to actually learn how to develop for blockchain, and on the other hand, attempted to kind of solve this. I won't go into the details, but it has to do with token engineering. So that's, I was researching on various ways to develop tokens and reward incentives and all of that. And that's how I found you guys. I actually, someone from the Cambridge Blockchain Society recommended you. So now I'm here, and I just joined today. Still have a lot to read on what you guys are doing, but it seems really cool, and I've never actually participated in a DAO before, or a blockchain community. So this seems very interesting. I'm super excited.
We are happy to have you, Narcissus, here. And I will ask back to you after we have introductions, a little bit more about the context, because you really sprint into blockchain after your master's, it seems. So I will pass it on to my favorite name here, Jeremy and the Gospel of Change. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Word. Thank you. That's my band. Not really, but it sounds like I should have a band. My name is Jeremy. I've been lurking around the TEC actually for the better part of a month, like absorbing a vast amount of transparency videos on YouTube. So I have, for somebody who just joined his first call like yesterday, I have a shocking amount of context. I'm here because I had like a manic download of an idea around starting a DAO to help manage a commons that I participate in around liberating structures. Liberating structures are tools for shared thinking. So a bit of a social technology, you could think of them, or you could also look at them as like super simple facilitation techniques that people in a conversation can use. And there's a pretty big community all over the place that's been using and developing and continuing to refine these tools that are released under Collective Commons. And I was like, oh my God, this big idea came to me. And I said, holy shit, I'm doing way too much thinking, more than my fair share of thinking. Like this should be distributed cognition. This is what's needed right here. So who are people who have done a lot of thinking about this particular topic? And then boom, I land here and it's like, oh, well, shit, this is exactly what I need in my life. So yeah, and now I'm just sort of doing a fishing expedition to see if to see how I might help the community over there apply what you guys are learning here. So thanks for blazing the trail and spending a lot of energy doing it. And that's me. Anybody else?
Thank you. And I will pass it on to Doverarch, who has been on the community hall for an hour here. So thank you so much for waiting for us to start this call.
No worries. So I've been lurking too for like almost since May 2020, I think. So it's for quite a while. I've been working with blockchain for the better part of 4 years. But rejoined or reignited my engagement here because I've been doing mechanism design at Rome DAO, fork of Olympus, kind of gamify project, and I've been learning to code and to do smart contracts. So I thought getting into token engineering again more deeply would be a good combo. So I'm hoping to participate in the TE fundamentals course you have planned for this fall.
All right, welcome back, Doverarch. And then I will pass it on to members of our community to introduce themselves. And let's start with Nate. And you guys know each other, so you can pass it on to the next ones.
Thanks, Edu. So I'm Nate. I'm one of the stewards here at the Token Engineering Commons. I working with a bunch of different working groups, including onboarding, which is really great. I was originally, trained as a geologist. Did my master's in public administration, and then got obsessed with DAOs and never looked back. So I really enjoy this space. I think you guys are in the right place. It seems everybody has the best intentions and trying to learn and trying to get a better grasp of how DAOs operate, and that's what we're all about. I'm just glad to see everybody here, and it's really awesome to meet you. And I'll pass it over to Zepti.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, I'm also a steward of the TC. I joined like this for like a year. I was just starting here and I was just recording calls and updating them on YouTube. And then, they asked me like if I wanted to be a steward. Then I built like the transparency working group. And now we're trying to do audits and trace, especially like after the commons upgrade, trace the money movements of the commons. And I'm really enjoying my staying here. So I'm happy for all of you. Like there's a lot of new people. That's awesome. I'll pass it to Durgadas.
You there, Durgadas? Can't hear you if you are.
Stable coins directly to.
If you're talking Drugadas, we cannot hear you. So I will pass it on in the meantime to the just people who just joined to the call. Welcome, Boiler Rod and Maggi. Basically, we are going through a round of intentions and distractions. Very simple. Any intention that you can bring to this call, or something you want to talk about, and any distractions that you may have in your surroundings, something that can probably cut your audio whatever you feel like sharing. And if you like to share any personal information, like what are you working on, what is your time zone, and how do you arrive to this corner of the Web3 space, you're more than welcome to share. So I will pass it on to Manny G. Nice background. I don't know if it's me, but I cannot hear you at the moment.
Yeah.
That's my
There we
distraction.
go.
Is I'm camping with my buddies right now, so I'm out in the beautiful desert
There
in
you go.
Arizona. But I really wanted to get in this call. I'm really I was just finally like digging into Common Stack and the augmented bonding curve stuff, and I just think it's a really interesting primitive that needs to be like pushed forward and experimented on. So I'm hoping to see if I can plug in and learn more.
Thank you. And now we'll pass it on to Boiler Rat. Welcome. We would like to share a little bit about yourself and any intentions and actions that you may have.
Hey, sorry, I was just eating and listening at the same time. Yeah, no, I've been in Web3 for a little while now. Just recently was involved with a fundraising round with MoonDAO, which was kind of cool. We raised 2,600 ETH to send a DAO member up into space. So that's kind of interesting. They actually secured the 2 tickets last night. So 2 tickets were purchased last night for Blue Origin to send 2 DAO members in space. So that's what I've been working on lately, amongst, like everybody else in Web3, about a million other things. But that's the thing that's been taking up my time lately. Actually, was kind of originally first got interested in the in this site. I think a few months ago, I was kind of doing research on a just sort of DAO constitutions and specifically conflict resolution, and came across the Tec Constitution. I don't know if it was called a constitution, I don't remember, but found it super interesting, and actually probably one of the go-to ones that I've been referring back to as trying to work my way through that sort of document. And that's it. That's me. Nice to meet you all.
Nice. And I will ask you later on, after we are close to end the call, about what is incentive mechanisms to get you 2 tickets to the moon. That's an amazing DAO kind of motto. So I will pass it on finally to Streamer. Welcome to the orientation call.
Hello, everyone. It's Tall Guy. I'm from Hamburg. Yeah, it's my first time in TEC Orientation, and I'm finally feeling like I achieved something. Yeah, actually, there are quite a lot that I need to learn and also share, but yeah, could be over bounties or idea-wise contributions, but I want to get involved somehow, maybe in multiple aspects, but then you might let me know how you prioritize things. Then, yeah, right now I'm trying to kind of design something for world peace, if that's if that's cool for everybody. Like, because once one person told me, hey, who you are to, you know, how dare, and kind of that's why I feel like a bit shy about that. But I think when we ask people out there, 7+ billion, everybody says, hey, drop the guns, right? It's like, hey, I want a peace. And if we write those to blockchain, I think that's gonna happen. And people, that's like, a chain is for also for like promises, you know, you keep your word, you said that, kind of, but anonymously too. I just wanna get some booster for all that, but it's not something comes with funding. it's like people, and I look for solutions on people, not a few politicians should be having that consensus. If we can have a peer-to-peer consensus of billions, and that's it, and make it observable, like a change.org campaign, and just very basic stuff. And I'm quite binary on that. It's not like we pick like, hey, except that country, I'm good with all. It won't work. So it's a bit like this. There are other stuff too, but I don't know. Like, I think that's
Perfect.
not something like I can tell everything right now. But check my website in a full screen. I mostly don't require full attention, but maybe sometimes full screen. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. And this is a safe space. Everyone is welcome. So feel free to share if you want to share links. There is a ideas channel in our Discord on your left. So you're more than welcome to share also your links over there. And we will continue with this. Thank you everyone for this small round of introductions. We'll start explaining a little bit about actually what we do here in the TEC, because sometimes people arrive to this space and they don't have a clear idea of, okay, you talk about token engineering, but actually how do you implement that, or how do you actually work? And we start this conversation by putting over the table what are our intentions, what are our missions, what are our visions, and what are our values, which is basically the framework in which this organization is based and built upon. And
Can
we
I
will start.
introduce myself?
Yes, Turgaras. Sorry,
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually kind of have to go, so I've been wanting to do that. So yeah, I'm Durgadas. My name is Regis. So yeah, I've been here about a year. I work with Gravity Group and the with the Omega Group. So brought a lot of the stuff that you know we talk about in terms of culture, nonviolent communication, spiral dynamics, integral theory, liberating structures. So I got my liberating structures cards here, by the way. I think I messaged you, Jacob or Jeremy, about that. So let's connect about that. Yeah, so I'm basically, I really am just here for the culture, not for the tokenomics or anything else. So I'm here for the people and for the culture. So yeah, feel free if you guys have any conflict or trust creation issues or ideas. I work pretty closely with Wonka in the Gravity Group. So thank you. And sorry, I gotta go. So thanks, guys. Nice to meet you all.
No problem. Thank you, Durgaras. And if you're interested in philosophy, culture, Durgaras is your man. So going back to the mission values, what we do here is a little exercise of passing the word to usually our here friend Nate to try to explain in their own words what is our mission, vision, values. So you can take it away, Nate.
Yeah, it's my favorite part, because it changes up every week. So, describing the mission, vision, values here at the TEC, our mission at the Token Engineering Commons is to advance the field of token engineering as a legitimate science. It's a very nascent stage as a science, and so we want to make sure we build up the foundation and infrastructure for that. The TEC economy is centered around funding public goods, and specifically around token engineering primitives. And so that is our main focus. And our vision for this is to kind of become the Schelling point for token engineers. So if you're working on different projects and you have innovations that you're finding and that you want to come and talk with other token engineers about, and to collaborate with others and just kind of find a kind of a research foundation, this is where we want you to go. And so our values are centered around pro-human or pro-social. Like we understand that these tools that we're building and that we're funding to build they, they're just tools, and without the human and social fabric underneath it, they're kind of useless. So taking that into account, we want to make sure that we evaluate the social fabric and build a culture around it. We know that these new coordination mechanisms, especially, encourage new types of social behaviors, and so we want to understand those social behaviors and how they work and how they're implemented, and make sure that the token designs within all of Web3 are both sustainable and ethically designed. And so that is our main focus at the end of the day. And so our economy is centered around creating this kind of regenerative funding mechanism for these public goods, and to have a better understanding so we can inform people in Web3 who are building token economies to actually do this sustainably and ethically. And so I think that at the end of the day captures a lot of what we're trying to accomplish here at the TEC. I'll pass it right back to you.
Man, you practiced this in speech today. You rock on this version. Thank you for that. So, yes, it's basically what he explained, and the way we execute this vision and this mission and all these values are in these working groups. We have currently 12 working groups, and the idea is that these working groups coordinate, and we have a working group that basically also helps coordinating the rest of the groups. You can think of them as the project managers, which is the stewards working group. The stewards working group, it's a group for coordination, and they basically use SendHub and sprint reviews that happens every 2 weeks, and we do retrospective also to keep ourselves aware and organized. Then we have SoftGov, and SoftGov, it stands for soft governance and culture, and it's a working group led by Livia, and she is the steward who was one of the first stewards in the TEC, and she applies this principle of Ostrom's in the framework of the TEC. Nate, would you like to take away in explaining a little bit about the 8 principles of Ostrom? To just provide
Yes.
context.
Yeah, I'll just provide you a little context. So Eleanor Ostrom was she was a researcher, a Nobel Prize winning economist, and she came out with a book, her research called Governing the Commons, and basically she evaluated different commons throughout the history in the world. Fisheries in Spain, Indonesia, water management in California, and what she did was she found out which types of common scenarios were actually sustainable over the long term, like generation over generation. And what she found was that each of these ones that were successful all had 8 common principles associated with them. Clearly defined boundaries, mutual monitoring, graduated sanctions, nested enterprises. There's a whole list of them that we try to embed within the actual structure of the token engineering commons to make sure that we have these same principles that she found within her research spanning over a decade. And so she's really kind of the foundation and the bedrock of what we follow here in the TEC, and we want to make sure that all of those principles are covered and acknowledged within the organizational structure and the culture that we build.
Thank you, Nate. If you just Google 8 principles of Ostrom's, you will see the resume of all these 8 principles.
Also, our
And
GitHub page.
I hope there you go. And then we have the legal working group, which is basically, as the word says, is the legal department. And they also make research on legal practices and how we can sort of work around the legal space. We have the transparency working group, and here we have Septimus. I don't know, Septimus, if you have bandwidth to explain a little bit about what transparency working group does.
Yeah, sure. On the transparency working group, we started like at the beginning just recording the calls, and then we started to do like audits to the working groups to foster like good practices. And right now, like after the Commons upgrade, we're also going to focus on all the fund movement from the TC, and yeah, we also like have like a lot of tracking documentation for decisions, and yeah, we also take care of the digital security of the platforms.
Thank you, Septimus. And he's been humble. Transparency Working Groups does all the documentation for the TEC. Like we have every call recorded from a year and a half, I think. Everything is recorded and everything is uploaded to YouTube. So for example, if you missed a call last week, you can still go to the YouTube and find it by the name of the working group, and you will see what happened during the hour that the call was recorded. So it's a form of open source. We are, as our values stated, we are radically open source, and that implies that all our knowledge is open to everyone, and that goes with transparency working group also. Then we have Omega working group, and Omega working group is a working group dedicated to the exploration of the ethics and the ethos of the token engineering field and systems. We have the Gravity, which is a working group for conflict resolution. We are humans. We are not only coders or developers. We are people who are behind a screen. Therefore, there will be conflict. Therefore, we need to acknowledge it. And the Gravity Working Group is a group. It's a group of people who acknowledge this and who works around and create and foster safe spaces and environments for everyone to resolve conflicts. They created this program, the Gravity Course, which opens, I think, basically every 3 months, something like that, and everyone can subscribe, and it goes to, you get a certification of conflict management. And then we have the parameters and the common swarm working groups that were the working groups dedicated for our launch of our token, and they basically help deciding the technical part and the coding part of launching a token. Then we have the comms working group, which is a working group dedicated to communication, as the name it says. We have Labs, which is an experimental working group where you get a little bit of analysis of data analysis. You can learn solidity. You can learn different things, and it's an experimental space. We have the coolest of the working groups, which is Communitas, and it's the working group dedicated for community building, for orientation, for doing this call, for fostering all the community building exercises that we do here. And we have the reward system working group, which is a working group dedicated to create what will be the incentives mechanisms in the TEC. So that's a little bit of the overview about the working groups and how do we work. We have a public, 99.9% of our links and content are public and open. We have a public calendar, which is the TEC calendar. And then we have all our calls are open. You can join at any moment to any of our calls. The person who is facilitating the call will probably and most likely welcome you and explain you and contextualize what's the call about. And if not, you can just go to YouTube and check the calls too. So that's a little bit to provide context. I saw that you unmute, Nate. Would you like to add something to this?
Yes, I always like to add something to the working groups just because I think it's very important for people to, if you want to explore the working groups, please do so. You can jump into any call, join any type of interest you have within these working groups. Working groups in the TEC, they grow organically and they dissolve organically based on need. And so if you see something that happened, like we happen to need, and you want to do it, we work in a duocracy, and it's a very difficult thing for newcomers, especially if it's first time in interacting with a DAO. We live in a very centralized world, and so our attitudes and mindsets are very centralized oriented. And so, a lot of people are waiting for permission, and that's not how we work. And so, to get adjusted to this kind of like decentralized mindset of operating with other people and kind of a flat hierarchy, just be active. Go do it. If you think of something, go do it. The power of perspective from volume is amazing. So I encourage everyone to just find an interest within TEC and go explore it.
That's correct. We are basically a group of people organized around areas of interest. So basically is if you do not see an area of interest that you can plug in within the working groups, just communicate or exchange with the guides or with the community stewards, and they can sort of put you in the right path. If that area of interest is developed here in the TEC. So that's a little bit to provide context. And then we have one of our cultural practices, which I like the most, which is the praise. The praise is a reward system, but it's way more than just a reward system. It's a cultural practice. And this is the last favor I will ask from you, Nate, to explain a little bit about the praise system.
Yeah, so praise is really awesome. Praise is one of the cultural practices that we have embedded within our cultural build. You all have the ability to send praise. If you would like to praise somebody, you can ask for that permission. We'll grant it to you immediately. The idea of praise is multifaceted. It's both a way to recognize each other's work, especially when you're working in different areas all the time and we don't get to know each other that well. If you're like in one working group and I'm in one working group and we're dedicated to that. So being able to recognize the work of others builds this kind of intrinsic motivation to keep returning to the work that we do. I think you'll see it pop up on your screen. Somebody praised you for what you've been doing. And the great thing about praise is that it's able to capture things that aren't traditionally captured within traditional reward systems. So like the way you approach a call, the way you interact with people, those things aren't typically rewarded in traditional systems. And praise allows this to be captured. Another benefit to praise is that we have a praise channel. If you go look through it, you can actually, it serves as kind of like a message board to keep track of everything that's going on within the TEC. So you kind of get this kind of informational sharing message board type of system that we have. And it will eventually be embedded within our reward system. So you'll actually get compensated based off of your praise score. It's just one component of the overall reward system, but it is part of being rewarded. So we want to keep this culture of praise going because it is ultimately positive and keeps people coming back and coming back. Intrinsic motivation is very, very powerful.
Thank you, Nate, for covering up. My internet was sucky. Yes, Ratio, go ahead.
Yeah, my question, you said that you can request praise, request to give praise. How do you request?
Praise power, you can just ask any steward. We'll, like, if you become active and you join a working group call, like we'll give you it eventually. Like it's not something we gatekeep. It's just kind of like we want you to be cavalier with your praise. We want you to praise all the time as much as you can. Yeah, it's just good to recognize work of others and to have your work recognized as well. It's just a good feeling for everyone. So, but we do have to manually give you that power. So. Yeah, just request it from any steward or working group lead.
And I just did. So I just gave you praise power ratio. So there you go. It's very simple. It's not very bureaucratic over here. So we were talking about praise. So thank you, Nate, for covering that. So basically, that's one of the cultural practices that I like the most about the TEC. But the other cultural practice that I really like is inclusivity. So I will open the floor for questions like just Rachel did. And if anyone wants to ask a question, is more than welcome to, if my internet allows it.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free. Anything at all.
I guess one thing that I would ask is, I mean, it sounds amazing, by the way, and I really love the presentation and kind of the whole feel of the comments. One question that I had was, do people generally like springboard ideas around their own projects within the commons? Is that something that's done? And then where exactly within the commons does that happen?
So it depends. I'm sorry again for my internet. So it depends on the area of interest you have and the area of interest of the project. Because it could be coordinated with a working group. It could be just be for feedback, for example, or if you are looking for someone who works with you, you just go to the job board. So it actually relies on which is the area of interest of your project and how we can sort of interact in between our community and your idea or your community. We are open space, so everything and everyone is welcome in that sense. And the good idea, for me, I will commend you to, for example, come into the community call where you can hear a brief summary of every working group activity. So you can see, oh, maybe this working group have an area of interest that aligns with my project. And then you go to their calls, you listen a little bit, you see who attends to these calls. And based on that, you're like, oh, this guy said something that aligns with my idea or so. So that would be my recommendation to go to. Does that make any sense to you?
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And does anyone else? We opened the floor, by the way. I don't know if my internet allowed me to say that, but I open the floor for everyone to basically ask any questions that you may have. So I will count down to 0, and you can unmute yourself or raise your hands if you have your camera on, and I will pass the word to you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, there you go. So no questions, but if you don't have questions, I do have questions. How about you guys? So you explained, Narcissus, about the Cambridge Blockchain Society. Can you contextualize a little bit about it, and what was the context in which the TEC was mentioned?
Sure. It was actually someone just posted it because on the Cambridge Blockchain Society, you have a channel for resources, and they just mentioned you guys, and like one of the organizers mentioned you guys and said awesome resource. So that's how, and I loved the name. The name immediately struck me. Like token engineering is exactly what I am interested in. Although I didn't quite phrase it in my mind that way, but when I heard it, it struck a chord. So that was the context. I mean, Cambridge Blockchain Society is kind of loose in the sense that it's not just Cambridge. Kind of you have universities from all throughout the UK participating in it. So yeah, that's how it worked by you guys.
That's amazing. I didn't know we were shared over there. Thank you for sharing that. And then my next question is to Lynn. You mentioned the nonprofit, and then you are trying to move to becoming a DAO and to build your own token and so on. What is the struggles that you're going through? What is the process you're following? Yeah, just to know a little bit more about this process that you're going.
Yeah, we're looking into, so we moved to, just to Discord and start organizing in a different way like 2 months ago. That's going pretty well. We are using Open Collective as a platform for fiscal hosting, so we're quite familiar with the open source technology already, so that's brilliant. And now we are really looking into, well, the mission of All for Climate is to create a common infrastructure that is maybe also a token, etc., to reduce the administrations that grassroots movements have to go through. So we want to take away common pains that are a barrier or that prevent people from actually getting started in their local communities. So that is All for Climate at the moment. Voila, so we created a fiscal host and a legal entity for people to, they use that as a vehicle. We do it in a transparent bookkeeping way with Open Collective. So we take away that pain. But now we want to see if we can also find ways to make contributing to commons to your local community more sustainable, also in a financial way. Looking into system change, not climate change, and how can we onboard more people working for an alternative system and not being dependent anymore on the institutions that they usually fight, right? So we have a lot of connections with Extinction Rebellion, and yeah, they are doing a great job in ringing the alarm bell. But if you talk about crypto, they say, no, it's bad for the climate. But we actually believe that there might be some technology, some values in there that might help us move away from the existing centralized system. Yeah. So
I agree with you.
I'm just talking. So this is a bit
No worries.
what we're doing. So All for Climate is a bridge, and in the euro, like in just as with a bank account, and very old school as a legal entity and a nonprofit, we've always been a bridge between grassroots citizens, smaller and bigger, that need somehow of a contact with bigger institutions and foundations like the European Climate Foundation. If you want some fundings from them, you need to be a legal entity, but then you're just a local group. So you're like, how do we do that? So For Climate has always been the bridge between those two. And now we want to move on being the bridge between climate activists and activists for social justice and the crypto world. We took part in the Gitcoin climate round, for example. We on the fiscal host. We onboarded them in the Gitcoin grants, and now they did a really good job there. So you know, now they can be they have some funding and they can get going. So that kind of thing, really being the bridge between those worlds.
All right.
Hopefully issuing our own token at some point.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lynn. And I think, of course, grassroots movements are key to any space, crypto space, climate space, any kind of society space. It's key. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think in our side, the soft going to the soft golf calls or the gravity or the Omega working group could be really helpful on this process of building up. How do you deal with governance? How do you deal with incentives? How do you deal with engagement, participation on a DAO level, at least? So, yeah. And as Nate mentioned, the 8 principles of Ostroms are also very interesting for any social space because they offer sort of not only a mental but also a physical framework to act on. So I think that could be really interesting for you
Which one is that
dig in.
exactly? Because I didn't catch the name. I think though.
The 8 principles of Ostrom.
Yeah. Okay, now I get it. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
There you go. So now I wanted to ask Nomad Chad. You mentioned you were working on a project involving blockchain. Would you like to provide a little bit more of context on this project? I don't know if you can hear Chad, but your mic is muted. Oh, there you go. If not, there you go. There you go.
Sorry about that. I was distracted with some emails here, but was there a question posed to me, or are we just wrapping things up?
Oh, no, I was asking you about your blockchain project that you mentioned, and if you would like to share a little bit about it and context.
Sure. So we're just looking at the idea of integrating sustainability and rewards programs with blockchain. And it's still very, very early in trying to look at how we will even structure that. But it's just a concept that we're starting to kind of do some research on and play with.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would recommend.
I'll give you more details when I know more.
No problem. We are just starting a working group called Reward System that focus on this research of the reward system. So if you see it on the calendar, I will suggest you to take a look at it because it will probably, just to comparison notes, probably, it will be very interesting, I think, for you to take a look at.
No, that's great. Thanks for that heads up. Definitely.
No problem.
Really fascinating work going on the reward system. So very fascinating. Good research. So it'd be really good for you to join their call.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love that too. If it's possible.
Yeah. All our calls are open. So if you see it on the calendar, you can just join. There is no limitation unless the server is more than 25 persons. You just cut out your video and you can get into the call. Nice. But there is no other limitation besides the Discord thing itself.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Liam, I don't know if that LTF is from Longtail Financial, but if you are, please introduce yourself and to everyone here. Welcome, Liam, to orientation call.
Hello. Yeah, I just quietly joined the call late here and wasn't able to get there in time. But yeah, I'm with LTF. We're always doing a lot of fun stuff. I'm not sure what you want to know about it. Whether you know much about us already, I'm actually just curious the level of familiarity in this call, who's familiar with us and who isn't. For those who aren't, okay. So for those who aren't, we're a token engineering firm, and we offer just financial modeling for blockchain projects, crypto projects, and development services as well, consulting. So we're just kind of a full package deal for DAOs, crypto projects, and the like. And that's, in a nutshell, what we do and what we're about. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liam. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah, shoot me a message. Perfect. I'm open to it.
And if I were you, everyone in this call, I will follow them on Twitter because they have hot things in common down the road, my guess. And one of the founders is the steward for the labs, the working group of labs, YGG Anderson, and he's an amazing guy who runs this working group, and so this colleague of Liam here present. So thank you so much for the introduction, Liam.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for the prompt.
No problem. And I want to end with a curious and interesting thing that you mentioned, overarch, which is the the moon DAO. I'm trying to find. Oh, it's Boiler Rod, but I think Boiler Rod left the call.
Rome DAO.
Yeah, Rome DAO. Yes, sorry, I was confusing you with Boiler Rod, but he left the call. Okay. I think. But yes, I want to ask you about Rome DAO because you mentioned Olympus and so on. I want to just contextualize that conversation.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
What is Rome DAO? Because I have never heard about it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I guess I'm too deep into the bubble. But yeah, it started off as a fork of Olympus over on the Moon River chain. But and this was of course the plan all along, but it's developing into more of a gamify protocol where you will have a kind of Crusader Kings kind of campaign, like war campaign, coupled with the currency itself. So together with the staked token, which is of course Rome, you will. Okay, so the protocol is organized in houses. The houses represent various parts of the community. No core team or something like that. It's only like various houses. I myself am the founder of House of Grapes. And each house will, in this larger campaign, be able to coordinate troops by locking the token Rome. And whatever like game theory optimal choice we find fruitful, we will ask our house members to lock the Rome to advance our position in the campaign. And then at the end of each campaign, there are different rewards for making better decisions than others. So you win the campaign, basically. So it's a pretty serious gamification aspect on top of this. I wouldn't call it as a reserve currency, but I think that's
right
appropriate to keep it simple. And I myself, I work as a mechanism designer to create a kind of social layer to Rome DAO by the use of a grape token, which will function as more of a social coordination mechanism to give the users or the citizens of Rome stuff to do on top of like just staking, basically. It's like tokenizing the 3-3 meme of Olympus to give like reoccurring value basically to users so that they have more to do than just check their CoinGecko balance amount staked.
All right, that sounds very cool. I will love to have a conversation with you after any moment of this call, mainly because we are trying to find a way to gamify our onboarding process in a way that doesn't feel shifty or weird or strange. So I would love to have a conversation with you in that sense.
Yes, to is like a coin-based gamification kind of thing, or more of a. Well, I can show you the Rome stuff, and then we can.
Sure. Yeah.
Go from
of
there.
course.
Yeah, awesome. That's
perfect. All right, everyone. I would love to thank you and thank you so much for joining this call. It has been, for me at least, really productive to meet you all. And I encourage you to participate in any of our calls that you feel like. If I left anything left to answer, there's a question and a help channel on the left in the Discord channel. You're more than welcome to provide feedback, suggestions, or any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Nate, for helping with the call too. And I'm looking forward to see you guys until next week or around in any call.